Have you ever heard a place speak? Not with words, but with a feeling, a pressure in the air, a story told in silence? I have a friend, an old sailor, who swears the coldest places on Earth aren't silent at all. They're full of echoes. And sometimes, he says, those echoes have names. This is the story of one of those echoes, trapped in ice for nearly a century. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi, and this is the Unexplained Archive. Our story begins in the summer of 1931. The SS Baychimo, a sturdy steel-hulled cargo steamer, is plying the northern coast of Canada, trading furs and supplies with remote Inuit settlements. She was a workhorse, not a glamorous liner, owned by the Hudson's Bay Company. But that autumn, winter came early and with a vicious intent. The Baychimo became trapped, locked in by encroaching ice floes off the coast of Alaska. The crew, after weeks of waiting, were eventually airlifted to safety, assuming the ship would be crushed and lost to the sea. But the Baychimo had other ideas. She broke free. Or, perhaps, she was set free. This is where the ledger of facts ends and the ledger of legends begins. Because the Baychimo didn't sink. She began what can only be called a ghostly solo voyage. For the next 38 years, the ship was sighted again and again, drifting aimlessly and eerily through the Arctic waters. Sailors, trappers, even Inuit hunters would spot her, a silent, frozen specter against the gray ice, a floating island of rust and memories. They'd board her, sometimes, and then storms or ice would sweep in, and she'd vanish again. She became a maritime myth, the ghost ship of the Arctic. But here is where my old sailor's story diverges from the history books. He told me of a specific encounter recounted to him by his own grandfather, an Inuit hunter in the 1950s. The man, chasing a seal far out on the pack ice, saw the Baychimo locked in a new tomb of frost. Driven by curiosity, he ventured aboard. He described the absolute stillness, the groan of the hull, the strange, preserved world inside. Cups on tables, blankets in bunks. And then, in the ship's narrow radio room, he heard it. Not a voice, but voices. Muffled, distant, overlapping. Fragments of conversation in English, a burst of static, a faint, panicked shout about ice thickness. He said it sounded like a recording, but thin and stretched, like sound frozen solid, and was just beginning to thaw. He fled, and when he returned with others days later, the ship was gone, leaving only a scar in the ice. Scientists have a term for this: psychometry. The idea that objects can absorb emotional energy or events and replay them under certain conditions. A stone recording a battle cry. A wall holding a whispered secret. Could a ship, subjected to the immense stress of crushing ice, the terror of an abandoned crew, and decades of lonely, frozen purgatory, have somehow imprinted those final moments? Not as a conscious thing, but as a sonic fossil. An icebox echo. It's a haunting thought. We think of the cold as a preservative, and it is. It keeps things as they were. But what if it preserves more than just physical things? What if it can preserve a moment of sheer human crisis? The last radio calls, the final footsteps on a deck, the creak of a hull accepting its fate. And under the right, lonely circumstances, play it back. The Baychimo was a unique vessel, spending more time as a frozen ghost than a working ship. That's a lot of time for an echo to form. I think about this story often here in New York, surrounded by our own human echoes in concrete and steel. We leave marks everywhere. Most fade, but some conditions are perfect for preservation. The Baychimo's tale reminds me that the line between a physical object and a story is thinner than we think. Some stories are so powerful, so charged with emotion, they don't just live in books or memories. They seep into the very metal and wood, waiting for a quiet moment and a listener to thaw. The ship was last officially sighted in 1969. She's almost certainly gone now, resting on the ocean floor. But I wonder, in the deep, dark, and yes, frozen quiet down there, what echoes still play. Thank you for listening. This episode was written and narrated by me, Ibnul J. Farabi, and produced by Light Knot Studios. You can find more stories from the archive at https://www.lightknotstudios.com. Until next time, listen closely to the quiet places.